Hey, what's going on, everybody? We got Funny Guy Timmy in the group on live today with us. I have no idea what's about to kick off here at all. This guy is mental, as they say in the UK. He's
Insane in the
mental.
membrane. Insane in the brain.
Man, Tim, how you been doing, man? How's things been going for you?
Very, very good. In the past 2 months, I've actually been getting more sleep. It's crazy. That I've actually had more sleep than basically in the entire rest of this year combined. Which is not to say that I'm not working. I'm working a lot.
Oh, okay. I was wondering, it's like, where's all the sleep coming from?
I've prioritized. Before I was at the beginning of the year, I had a day job. I was trying to do acting, stand-up comedy, voice acting, video editing,
Oh,
script writing, everything. I was spreading myself too thin. And so in the past 2.5 months, I've basically just been focusing on voiceover. All the stand-up that I get is no longer from me marketing myself. It's now from my agents. If they send me work, awesome. The acting is mostly just if I see something on Facebook, on one of the Facebook posts, and it's local and it's on a time that I'm free, then I'll be like, hey, I'm free.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm not like pushing to find it. Also, I'm making more money, which is great. That helps you sleep. Make enough money to pay the bills. That helps you sleep real good.
You gotta lay your head down, kind of.
When you look at all the bills and they're all paid or they're not due for like, I don't know, another 15 days, and you're gonna have enough money by the time, you're just like, oh, I can just snuggle right in here.
Let me ask you, Tim, what was the shift, or how did the shift happen where you went from, I don't want to say nothing, but
you
nothing. Where you were, to where you are now in the span of the last 8 months, 9 months, almost 10.
Almost 10, yeah. I would say the big change was tripling my prices.
Whoa. Wait a minute. We know that I've been talking about raising prices and not being afraid to charge what you feel you're worth. You didn't double. You tripled.
I tripled.
Why?
I was looking at the doubling and I was like, well, it's only going to soften the blow by so much. And I was like, nah, let's go 3 times. Let's do 3 times. Because normally when I increase my prices, it's always double. I always just double it. Which normally just if it's Fiverr, it's just decreasing the number of words or charging a little bit more for like the commercial fee or 24-hour and stuff like that. Sure. But I was like, now let's bring the whole total to about 3 times more than it would be. Which even though I've tripled my prices, I've actually been making way more than that per order than now on average.
Now, when you say that, so now you're making more and working less.
Yes, way less.
Wow.
Way less. Which, like I said, feels great, and you get lots of sleep, and you can get stuff done. There's really only one project that I'm finishing up that's kind of taking a lot of time, and it's really just because of my disability in dyslexia. Because it's like 2,000 words for one character, and then another one's like 1,500 words. And they're long paragraphs that I'm trying to get in like one take. And there's kind of a workaround technique that I've learned doing this that's actually making it easier, and like the way I use Audacity to actually break up each section. I could probably do a second. It'd be hard to tell. It'd be easier to show. So I might do.
You talk about dyslexia. You're not actually kidding.
No, I am not kidding.
Yeah.
I actually I talked to another voice actor, famous in the industry. He did what was it? Billy from Billy and Mandy. I can't remember his name. Really feel I'm terrible with names. That's another one of my things. And he also did Invader Zim from Invader Zim.
Okay.
really famous, well known in the animation industry, and I decided to have just a one-on-one coaching session with him, and one of the things we were talking about was dyslexia. And he had a lot of great points, and he had a lot of great advice and tips, and so I'm trying to work on that a little bit more, and it's getting a little bit easier. But that's really the only thing that like takes a lot of time, and then after that, a lot of it is just really short projects that I'm making a lot more on.
Sure.
Go for it.
So, I mean, with that, so even having dyslexia, you didn't allow that to become an excuse.
No, none whatsoever. I mean, for someone who has really severe dyslexia and reads for a living into a microphone, you would think that would be the worst pairing imaginable.
Yeah.
Like
when I talk about the speech impediment that I used to have, or whatever, that I still struggle with sometimes,
right.
Reading for a living and talking into a microphone without a stutter,
Exactly. And it's like having no arms and being a trapeze artist and trying to catch the other guy. Like it's really, you gotta find a way.
To do that.
Grab him with your teeth, I guess.
When you were going through your thought process about tripling your prices, how scary was that for you?
It was really, really scary. But I knew that I needed to do it because I think it might have been 4 or 5 months ago, I actually lost my job. It was a job that I had down South Austin, and I live North Austin, and 35 is a mess because it's under construction. If there's one accident, just one person wrecking, it's an hour and a half to get there.
Okay.
So after a while, I had already been coming in late too much, and so it was just an agreement. It was like, I'm coming in late. It's I should have been suspended or fired a long time ago. This is looking bad on you guys because you're making an exception for me, and I don't think that's fair. So let's just end this here. And then after that, I tried to push for more comedy, but no one was really hiring in the area, and it's really hard to market for comedy because if you're in a big city that does comedy, you have to know somebody. You have to already be friendly with the bar, and a lot of them already have their comics that they
their go-to guys and gals.
Their go-to guy. So that was something that I could make money on, but it wasn't something that I can make money tomorrow on.
Okay.
And the same thing with the acting. You have to do auditions, so there's no guarantee that you're going to get the role. I did new headshots, and I put together a better demo, and I sent it to my agent, and still haven't gotten anything from my agent in that entire time.
Wow.
All the acting that I've gotten has been on my own time, has been me reaching out to people or knowing people that are looking for somebody. But again, that's not a tomorrow solution. So the only thing that I had that was free and that was already set up to make money was Fiverr.
Gotcha.
So I was like, if I don't make this much, I'm hitting like here. If I don't make this much a month, then I'm not going to make it. Then I'm not going to make it through the month.
Yeah.
So, it was like, I have to do this. And sure, I probably could have made enough if I doubled it, but I really felt like, I also don't feel like I set it high enough for the quality of my product.
Okay.
But it's another one of the things that's really hard for me to do is because I have a terrible perception of me. I think I'm really, really bad. It's healthy. As long if you're not like rocking back in the corner, just chastising yourself with a belt, it's fine to be critical of yourself. I don't know. Again, I don't know if my critique of myself is realistic, but it does constantly push me to try harder and produce better demos and get better at using my mic and my technique and all this kind of stuff. It pushes me forward, but it does have its downside.
There's a question that I became aware of to start asking myself, and so I'm telling other people about this as well, is that if you're scared of something or if you're feeling trepidation or anxiety, the question is simply, how would I show up if I didn't feel that way? So when you're in that moment of that anxiety, when you're in the moment of that fear or doubt, what would I feel like if I didn't think that?
Right.
And go into that, because all of us have these fears, all of us have these things in these challenges, and all of us are very self-critical. I believe most people are more critical of themselves than other people will ever be of you.
Right. I think that's very true, especially because you know all of your buttons and all of your weaknesses. I mean, you know what scares you.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you're thinking of something that could scare you in the middle of the night, you're better than any filmmaker ever.
Yeah. And there's, I mean, is it, let me ask you this question, especially from the standpoint of a comedian. We've seen so many different stories, whether it be the Martin Lawrence story or Dave Chappelle, you know, different things, going all the way back to Eddie Murphy as well as Richard Pryor. The depressive states that comedians go into, but somehow bring comedy out of it.
Yes.
Do you find that with yourself?
I do. I don't write, when it comes to comedy, I don't write that much based on my fears. But I do write a lot that's based on kind of self-deprecating kind of humor. Most of the humor that I write is, you know, evaluating me in perspective to other or normal things.
Kind of, I'll take a shot at myself before someone else takes the shot.
Right. And it was actually kind of a career choice for me to go that way, because originally I think originally my style of comedy was trying to be a little bit more aggressive towards other things or other people.
Okay.
But I started to take it back and be aggressive towards myself and evaluate myself. And a lot of that has to do with my height, my weight, how goofy I sound or how goofy I look with my ears and whatever it is. And that was a career choice because no one can really get upset with you as a comedian if you're just making fun of yourself.
Yeah.
You know, well, logically they can't. They can't.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone can get upset. You're like, you're not that bad. Get mad. It's like, who are you yelling at? Who are you arguing with? But it was just kind of a decision that I made. I was like, you know, I'm a white straight guy, so the only person I can technically make fun of is myself. And so that was kind of the majority of my humor now. But originally a lot of my humor was based on dark depression, and I know tons of comedians that dig from those darknesses.
Okay.
And oh, you blow it up.
Look, I'm on my Mac, and so when my phone rings, my Mac rings. So it's like I forgot about that.
He did have it on silent. He did have it on silent. Yeah. I will attest to that. You so popular. You so popular. But I do know, but I do know tons of comedians who pull from darkness and sadness, and I think that has to do with the comedy and the art, really the art of it, because you're in your head so much.
Sure.
And if you're writing, you're often alone. Whether it's writing screenplays or writing, you know, comedy.
Well, it's the same with, you know, us as voice actors. I mean, we're alone in our booth or whatever, and we're doing these things
locked in our foam cage.
Right, in our foam cage, our padded rooms. And you know, you put out an audition, and I think part of the problem with a lot of voice actors that comes into play is that they put out an audition and then they sit in front of their computer and they're refreshing and refreshing and refreshing to see if they won, instead of going on to the next thing that needs to happen, or the next audition, kind of like doing the audition and now it's gone, because what's going to happen is going to happen.
Right.
And whether or not you refresh your screen isn't going to make it happen any faster. And your phone already dings when something comes in anyway. So it's like
the redundancy. Yeah.
You know.
Speaking of auditions, that's another thing that I don't stress all that much over. I still have a voices.com account. But I don't spend that much time on it. But again, I've been making more money. And this is the same thing I tell anyone if I ever have a coaching session with them, which I have started doing.
Yes.
And one of the things I tell them is if they're going to do auditions on voices.com, Badalgo, voices, voice 123, is that they shouldn't audition for everything.
Of course.
And I only audition for maybe anywhere between 5 and 10 things a week. And
across all platforms or across just that one?
Probably across all the audition platforms. I don't really get anything off Bidalgo or Voice Bunny, so I don't really focus that much time on those ones. Voices.com I'll search through, but I don't really like their categorizing of the. Okay. You have to go in and read the whole thing before you can really figure out whether or not it's for you. Right. On Voices.com, you can categorize it so I know if it's animation, cartoon, video game, which is my thing. And then I can also sort it by age or accent and stuff like that. So I really only do the auditions that I feel most confident that I can do, and anything else I just skip. I really just there's no point in me wasting that time.
Yeah. I mean, you're auditioning for stuff in the realm of character,
right?
The game, maybe some impressions or things of that nature. You're not going out doing auditions for Bible reading,
right. No audiobooks and stuff like that. And it's not that there aren't some like tech commercials or some e-learning that don't fit my voice and that clients might not be looking for. Sure. It's mostly just because I don't really feel like it might be partly the dyslexia. I don't really feel like I and they would benefit equally from the project.
Okay.
Also, I don't know if they would be their budget is worth how much time it would take out of my day because of my disability, which is why I charge by the word and not by the period of time, because each project is going to take a different period of time, and I won't know until I'm really reading it how long it's going to take.
Sure.
But the animation is really easy for me to read because it's dialogue. Right. It's very easy for me to read dialogue as opposed to a huge 3-line sentence medical narration of words.
Which makes sense because when it's dialogue, you can kind of, even though you might be doing a character, you're bringing a lot of your personality with that as well and imagining how would I say this in this situation.
Right.
And it makes it easier because you're acting as opposed to reading nonfiction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you understand the character and you know who they're talking to, what's going on in the scene, it's easier for me to be able to read ahead as opposed to reading those lines. It's easier for me to just know what's coming up next. And so it takes less time, even if there's huge words that are confusing to me, like if it's fantasy and they have made up names and stuff like that. Yeah. It still takes me less.
Gilgamorth,
Gamorkathaf or whatever. It takes me less time, and it's just easier for me to do, and I have a higher hit rate of satisfaction with clients doing it that way. And the last 3 projects that I got paid to do on voices.com were actually things I didn't audition for. They were ones that a client who had worked with me before had come back.
Okay.
So one that I had auditioned for, and I landed the role. They liked it. We had a great rapport, and they sent me private auditions. And so I sent those in. Actually, one of them, they didn't even send me the audition. They were like, here's some more. There's a different character. There's some more stuff. Is this fee good? And I'm like, yeah. So I didn't even audition for that one.
But that'll happen. And I'm assuming you're probably finding that more and more with more clients, that they just send you the stuff because they like what it is that you produce.
Right.
With the relationship that you have with Fiverr, because most of your work at this point is coming off of Fiverr. Is that,
I would say,
an accurate statement? What are you finding some of the key things that, especially in the coaching that you do now? Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, let's talk about what kind of coaching are you doing? Let's talk about that a bit.
Well, first out of the gate is always like an evaluation with anybody you talk to. The first coaching session is always an evaluation. Mm-hmm. You can't give advice if you don't know where they are. Exactly. I get tons of emails. Actually, the majority of the coaching that I get is through my YouTube channel, because I have my Funny Guy Timmy email down below. And if they're like, hey, I have all these questions, and we'll start talking and stuff like that. And then after I answer a few of their questions and I figure out that they really are serious about this, because every now and then you get some kids that are just like, how do you get into cartoons?
I'm thinking about how to do this,
Everyone says I have an amazing voice.
I have my Radio Shack Michael tape recorder here.
Yeah. But every now and then you get some people that have genuine questions. I ask them to send me any demo that they have, and then I'll evaluate that. And then I'll tell them, hey, I can also offer, one-on-one, because it's often easier to do a one-on-one Skype coaching session. And then we do that. And when it comes, one of the first things that I suggest is always Fiverr. And that's because it's free. It's not something that you have to pay a membership for, like voices.com or voice123. Right. It's 100% free. And it's already a search engine. It's already, people type in what they're looking for. And if you're in that category, you'll pop up. Right. And really all it comes down to is marketing and pricing at that point. And skill. I mean, I mean, let's be honest. You got to have at least a little bit of skill. But, yeah, and one of the things that I always have to reassure them is that it's actually not as hard as they think it is on Fiverr. Everyone thinks that they're against everyone, that they're competing against everyone on Fiverr, which is not true at all. You're maybe competing against 10, 20 people if you really think about it. When the client comes on and they type in, because I've hired other people to do stuff on Fiverr, so I search stuff and. When it comes to other voice actors, I know what I'm looking for. So I'll have a voice in my head if it's voice actors. And I will type in female, young, between this age, American accent, animation or cartoon voice. And then they'll pop up, and then I'll already have a voice in my head, and then there'll be maybe 5 or 10 that fit that kind of voice, that kind of style, that kind of read.
Okay.
I imagine it's very similar with other clients. They already have a voice in their head, especially if they're already working with a video, and that they just need a voice for, or a script for. They already have an idea because there is a brand that they're working with. So they're going to go in with that in mind, and they're going to search these very simple categories. Maybe 100 people are going to show up, but there's really only going to be 10 people, maybe, that they're really going to be struggling with. And at that point, it's going to come down to how good is your demo, how well written is your information, and your gig extras,
communication that you have with them, the customer service aspect to that, making sure that they know you understand what it is that they want and the final product.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And really, like you said, it comes down to communication. And a lot of the stuff that I get, actually some of the biggest paid stuff that I get, is when someone's like, hey, I'm needing multiple voices. I'm needing multiple voices for a project. And because they listened to my demo and they've heard that a lot of my characters sound very different from each other, that I can deliver multiple characters for the same project. And so I'm kind of a one-stop shop for a lot of people when they need male voices. And so they'll be like, hey, can you do this voice and this voice and this voice? And I try to be very, very honest. If it's a voice that I can't do, I'll be like, I can do a similar voice. Yeah. And then I'll try to send them a really quick sample if I already have something. And I'll ask them all the information, what kind of project is it? How many words? I try to get all that information. A lot of people I've noticed that they'll just send a flat rate fee before even getting all the information.
Okay. Let me back you. I'm going to back you up because your dyslexia has taken you off track with my question.
I think it did. I don't remember what the question was.
I'm really interested in what it is that you coach people to do. And I think everyone is very interested
I did go way off.
What you coach people to do. I'm trying to wait till he comes back, but he's going off on the tangent. Let me bring him back, because that's not even what I freaking asked.
Is that funny? Okay, yeah.
Thanks for the info, though. It was very helpful.
The coaching is often first the audio quality. I've done a lot of microphone reviews, so I know a large range of microphones that people can get that are inexpensive to get the right sound. So a lot of people come to me and ask, oh, I'm needing the TLM 103.
Let me stop you right there. And I want to go to that point that you just brought up too about the microphone. I'm getting a tremendous number of inquiries about mics and things of that nature. It's like, what kind of mic should I get? And it's like, because you've got the school of thought
Right.
Don't use a USB. And I used to be in that school of thought, don't use a USB. But then you've got all this great technology that has happened within the USB realm that is really like, I don't know if I can say that anymore. What are your feelings about that subject?
I think for starting out, if you have no equipment and you are just starting out, you don't have a demo, you haven't really done any voiceover training, I think your best first pick is going to be a good voiceover mic, but it has to have zero latency, so you can hear yourself. And I know there's
basically when you talk about latency, basically you hear what you're saying as you're saying it.
Exactly, at the exact same time, no delay. My first mic that I normally recommend to people, if they can't afford the Audio-Technica 2020 USB, which
that was my first one. Love that mic. I still have it. I still use it. I was looking for it. It's like, where's my mic?
The next one would be the Samson CO1U Pro, which is like half the price, doesn't have all the dials, has a little bit more noise than the Audio-Technica, but it has live, has a port for headphones. Live feedback. So, and it's like it's a really good starter mic. It's not perfect, but it's going to sound okay on most people's voices. It's not really tinny or
so
sharp.
You would prefer the AT 2020?
I would prefer the AT 2020.
Okay.
But a lot of times it's someone who's got like they need to spend more on their setup. Because you can have a really nice mic and a terrible setup. It doesn't mean anything.
Exactly.
So I often recommend getting a really cheap starter mic and then spending most of the money on either getting sound blankets
or environment.
Right, a new environment, putting together a booth. I also have a PDF that I've put together that has a list of all the stuff that you can buy to really get started. And it ranges anywhere. I think it was like it's like anywhere between $200 and $350 in total cost for all the stuff to set up an average studio, which is not bad.
No.
And then at the bottom it has some examples of how to set up like a really quick space. And so that'd be like the first thing that we'll often talk about. If they're past that point, then it normally becomes, well, what's the issue? What's the problem? What are your questions? Where are you stopped? And a lot of them, it's like, well, I don't know where to begin, or they're producing their own demo and they're doing it all wrong. And then we break down their demos. A lot of the times they'll have like, I don't know what's wrong with my demo, and I'll like send it to me, and then I will actually edit it on my end. And I'll do like a screen share with them, and I'll show them, this is what I'm doing. I'm using Audacity because it's easy. It's very.
Is that your DAW of choice you use every day?
It is. I have other programs, but I've been using Audacity since the first time it came out.
Yeah, so you know it inside and out. So
inside and out,
flip through everything real quick because your workflow is what you know.
Right. I have hundreds of presets that for each individual project. And it's just way faster. It takes less time to render and all this kind of stuff. And so I'll show them using Audacity.
Sure.
And to kind of get them the basics of editing. And then, they download that, so they're good there. And then the next thing would be talking about the two websites that I often recommend. And one of them is Fiverr. And the other one is ACX. And it just kind of depends on what path they're going on. And because both of them are free, both the websites are free.
Right. Do you normally focus in on like the people that you're coaching now? Are they more in the character realm, or is it across the board for you at this point?
It's across the board. I think the last two, they had started out in radio, or been doing this for a while, but hadn't really gotten anywhere, and they wanted to get into animation and stuff like that. Which is a lot trickier to talk about because a lot of that is coming up with, well, first of all, a very large library of original voices. And the other thing is them being comfortable in front of a microphone and embarrassing themselves, even if there's no one there.
Yeah.
Which you'd be very surprised how many people are uncomfortable when no one's watching.
When no one's watching, yeah.
No one can see you through the mic. Why are you so afraid to act like a fool in front of the mic? So a lot of the times, one of my big things is I don't sit down. It's one of the things that I recommend.
Neither do I. Yeah.
You got to get up. You got to, stretch out this so you can breathe. Because if you're hunched over, you have that hunched over sound. Unless it's a sound
you want. Yeah.
So get up, get flexible, stretch. And then after that, it's a lot of showing them the 4 things in any voice, any character voice. There's 4 elements in any impression or character voice.
Ooh, they
just
are
4. And they are, I think I'm giving away a lot of my secrets, but for you, it's fine. So basically there is pitch. So that's how high or how low the voice is.
Okay.
There is accent, which is an easy one. That's just, like Irish accent, German accent, Indian accent. There is rhythm. And there is noise. So basically put those 4 things together in any combination, you have, a voice. And like I said, same thing with impression. So let's say Jimmy Stewart. Jimmy Stewart is a low pitch. He's got kind of a New York accent, I think. It's kind of a very hard accent to really narrow down. And then he stutters and he kind of speaks a little slow. And then there's this kind of almost like an old man chewing on his tongue sound. Okay, I'll give you an no, hold it right there. No. What you're saying is you put these 4 things together. You can do any voice. Is that what you're telling me?
Oh yeah, I forget the name, but I know who the character is. I forget the name, but I know who that is from the Christmas movie back in the day.
Clarence.
Yeah.
I grew up on black and white TV and old movies, and he was one of the first impressions that I really did. But he's a prime example of those 4 elements playing together. And all of my voices have these same things, maybe in varying degrees. Maybe there's not as much noise, or maybe the rhythms are the same, but those are the 4 basic elements. And pretty much anyone can do a voice that's not of their own. And when you can get them to do one of their favorite voices that isn't their own, and you get them to break it down. Yeah. And then you go, okay, what's another voice, that you do every now and then, whether it's.
And I want to repeat what you said. Anyone can do a voice.
Right. Anyone can do a voice. It may not sound as good as someone else. Like a lot of the voices.
It's a Wonderful Life. Michael just came up with the movie. Yeah. It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah.
Boom. A lot of the voices that I do don't sound all that much like me. They're either really, really high pitched and nasally, which is hard to imagine this voice any further, or they're really, really low. I do a lot of work where I'm doing like really, really low, like big dumb guys and stuff like that. And so if someone who sounds naturally like the way I do can bring his pitch down to, that kind of like ogre or dwarf voice, it really isn't that hard. Okay. A lot of people are just afraid to make it.
Do you teach people how to do that?
Yes. There are some people who I don't really feel get it.
Okay.
That it takes longer to really show them.
Let's see what I want to do. And the reason why I'm asking about the coaching, because what was it? 3 months ago, 4 months ago, I was yelling at you about why the freak aren't you coaching? Yeah. I think we had a couple of conversations a couple months ago, dude, what are you doing? So what I want to do here is expose people to what it is that you're doing. And I need you to tell us how they can get in contact with you as we close here.
Right.
So they can pick up on the things that you're an expert coaching at.
Well, as far as contact, the email that I've been using is FunnyGuyTimmy@gmail.com.
FunnyGuyTimmy.
FunnyGuyTimmy@gmail.com. I will eventually put together a whole Facebook page, Twitter, and email dedicated to coaching, because you have to separate everything. You have to categorize your stuff.
I think I know a little bit about that, but
if you put everything through one email, you're just going to get bogged down. I have an acting email, I have a voice acting email, stand-up comedy email. I have the Funny Guy Timmy, which is mostly for fans, but is basically become more or less the coaching one. But that's the one to contact me through as of current. Okay. So that's the easiest way. And after that, it's really there's also scripts that I'll hand out. There's also a voiceover character 101 sheet that I have, which there's a few people who I've tried this on. Basically, it's going to be a sheet that it's got the dialogue, and that's it. You're going to read the dialogue. And then after that, it's going to have a character description. So now you're going to read the same dialogue again with the new character description. Then after that, actually, no. Before that, it's the character's name. So you get a little bit of information at a time. Then it's the character description. And then after that, you're going to get a picture of the character. And then after that, you're going to get the scenario, what's going on. And every time you read the dialogue, read the line, you're supposed to change the voice based on the new information. And it's kind of every time you do an audition or do a character, you're going to get varying degrees of information. Sometimes you're just going to get a name. Sometimes you're just going to get a name and description. Sometimes you're just going to get a description, no name. And sometimes you are going to get the full thing with the picture and everything. But you have to be able to come up with a voice that Earl? Where'd you go, buddy? Earl? Am I still alive? Earl? Can anyone see me?
Okay. All right. Yeah, we're back now. I have no clue.
You were just like, and then gone. And then I was like, Earl?
Yeah, look, and now I'm using a completely different camera than I was using before. It's like, but oh my gosh, okay. But there was a question that came through that I think was kind of important. Everybody's saying, we lost Earl. It was like,
Earl, no!
But there was a question that came through. Let me just go scroll back through here. Did I lose the question? I hope I didn't lose the question because it was like a good one. Tom says he saw the plans you were talking about. Okay, here it is. Question came in from Michael. Do you feel the notion? Can you see the question?
I can see it.
Okay, yeah. So there's the question. I think he meant voice conversational as opposed to whatever else is there. But is that demand changing? Do you feel or?
As far as like the what was it again? As far as the young guy.
Yeah. As far as the every man, guy, gal next door voice, is that being overstated? Is that demand changing now?
I think I don't think that all the clients and everyone in the industry understands what that voice is, nor do I think all the voice actors know what that voice is. But basically we've lost him again.
No, I'm back.
But basically the voice, I was just going to keep going. But basically the idea is they want it to sound like someone who's just right there beside you or, a friend talking across the table. That's the basic idea. Now, a lot of voices nowadays, when they're looking for that kind of guy next door, young guy next door, they're basically looking for no accent, no discernible regional accent, someone who can basically be pitched across the table. And they're looking for someone that's believable and not broadcasty. It doesn't sound like they're selling you something. It doesn't sound like they're pitching an idea. It just sounds like someone sharing information. Now, when I talk to a lot of clients, they tell me, just read it naturally. Now, this happens to me. They're like, just read it naturally. Just read it how you naturally would. And I'm very high energy. I'm a very active, high energy guy. And so I read it how I would. And they're like, no, not like a cartoon. Read it like a normal person. They're like, don't do a character. I was like, I wasn't doing a character. That's
how I talk.
Yeah. And they're like, talk how you talk to friends. I was like, that's exactly how I talk to friends. And so from their description of what they were saying, I'm like, oh, you mean boring. And so I'll do it kind of like this with my arms not moving, and I'll just read like that. And they're like, perfect, got it. So I don't really think I have real good perspective of that particular area.
Okay.
I do know some people who nail that kind of young guy commercial read. But again, I don't do a lot of commercial, and so normally the stuff that I do is character based.
Okay. So once again, if you guys want to reach out with Tim, I think he's a great guy for you to reach out to. FunnyGuyTimmy@gmail.com. That's the address. Make sure you go catch him right there. Tim, I want to thank you for being on.
Thank you. It was fun.
Even through all the technical difficulties here in the last 5 minutes.
It was all good.
That we've been able.
the thing just saw me rambling. It was like, oh, he's going to keep doing this forever. Enough. Geez. It's like end for the love of God.
Oh, man. Well, thanks, Tim, for being here. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And we'll be back tomorrow. We'll see you guys then. Take care, guys.